Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Pat Riley, USI, David Burwell, Top Stack, David Jurgielewicz, Evolution Financial Group, and Ethan Milrod, GoTo. Ethan, can you give us a rundown on who we have on the show with us today, please?
Sure. We have a great show ahead today, including Shawn Lehocky, CEO of Pond Lehocky and Legal Ops, Jim Jurgielewicz, president of Joe Jorgewitz and Son Limited, Julia Anthony, founder and CEO, Solution Medical, and Andrea Custis, president and CEO, Urban League of Philadelphia.
Let's get to know our first guest, Shawn Lehocky, CEO of Pond Lehocky. What is Pond Lehocky, Shawn?
Pond Lehocky is a law firm on the plaintiff side, helping represent individuals for workers' compensation benefits, Social Security disability benefits, and a myriad of other legal needs across the country.
Mm-hmm. So where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm the oldest of three.
All righty. And what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old?
I played a lot of sports growing up. I played football in high school and college, and I was a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Shawn, now why were you the quarterback?
I think a lot of it was emotional intelligence, staying even keel, not getting too high or too low, looking at the strategy, making sure everyone worked together, and understanding that no matter how good you were at your job, everyone had to be working in unison or it really didn't matter.
Mm-hmm. And how did that experience as being the quarterback relate over to what you do every day today?
I think understanding the team dynamic, understanding strengths and weaknesses, understanding that failure is okay if you're learning from it, really putting people in the right positions and focusing on a team environment.
Perfect. David.
So tell us about Shawn, in the green room earlier, you were telling us about your dad and that he was a union pipe fitter and got injured on the job. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Correct. My dad was a pipe fitter. He worked in every type of weather condition. He was injured on the job, had to go right back to work because of his injuries. He couldn't heal properly because of the way it was structured. And that gave me a passion to want to pursue and help other individuals in that situation moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
Shawn, talking about your dad a little, what was your mom like growing up?
My mom was my biggest cheerleader. She was emotional support. She was a positive role model, good energy in the household, and it was always there for all of her children.
How does that fit into with what you're doing today?
I think she gave a good balance between, my dad as the hardworking individual, my mom as the even keel, emotional and intelligent, positive role model, and bringing both sides of that to a work environment is very important.
Mm-hmm. Are you the cheerleader at the office?
I think we have a culture of cheerleading each other. I think it's all about the team. No matter who has the idea, whether it's the intern or the CEO, promoting each other's success and being there for each other is vital to our culture.
Mr. Jurgielewicz?
Shawn, tell us about your relationship with your brother.
My brother played every position I did in sports, was 3 years younger than me. I would say it was a big brother, little brother relationship, but more of a mentor-mentee because of all of the things we did together. And I really understood that his eyes were always on everything I did, even at home or in sports or in school. So it was really important for me to provide a good example.
How does that mentorship tie into how you work today and how your business runs?
I think as a CEO, everyone's looking at you, for your responses in good times and bad. You have to understand that when the eyes are on you, you have to act a certain way no matter how you're feeling. You have to let people make their own decisions, guide them down the path, but don't be too forceful and let people kind of do it their own way as well and really mold them in that decision-making process.
Excellent. Shannon?
Shawn, in the green room, you mentioned that Dr. Wargo, your physics professor, was someone you looked up to. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, he guided me down a path of technology solutions, which is my passion now. Our school did not have a billboard on our baseball or a scoreboard on our baseball field. So through his class, I was able to develop our own school scoreboard. I built it from scratch based on his mentorship, and he kind of guided me down the path of where I'm at today.
And how does being guided down that path of technology, how does that help your clients today?
I think that whatever we do, we have to do it efficiently and do it with our clients' interest at hand. And there's not always the right solution for what our clients need, and we have to work diligently and come up with our own solutions when needed to make sure that their case and their benefits are moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Ethan?
Shawn, how young were you when you first started making money?
As long as I can remember. My parents had a real estate business. They own a bunch of rental properties, so they always had me doing odds and end jobs around those properties.
Tell us about some of the jobs you were doing.
Well, it was from cutting grass, shoveling sidewalks. One story in particular, there was a swimming pool, and somebody was coming over to look at the property, and the water was really cold. So I figured out a way to run a hose along the shingles of the house, the really hot day, to warm up the water to kind of do a self-heating pool, even though the pool didn't have a heater. So it was always odds and end jobs like that.
What did doing that teach you about yourself?
That I think I always had an inquisitive mind. I was always trying to solve problems. I looked at it from an engineering standpoint and, what can I do with what I have today to make the job easier and better and more efficient?
So you mentioned you're in the technology business and you've got this clever idea about running the water along the roof line so that it would heat the water for the pool. What's clever have to do with this technology solution that you've been building for law firms as well as for Pond Lehocky?
It's really breaking it down to a first principles thinking, throwing out how it's been done in law firms for hundreds of years and saying, what is in the best interest of my clients to have the best prep file and the best customer service, and build a solution around that instead of saying, how can I make a process better? Let's blow it up. Let's start over and let's do it right with the tools that we have at hand.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, what were you thinking there?
I was just wondering about, what you learned at working as a young kid. What does that have to do with what you're doing today? What did you learn then that you carry forward today?
That work can be fun. It's a challenge. No matter what job you're doing, as minuscule as the task is or seems or appears on the totem pole, make it a challenge. Challenge yourself to be creative in doing that task and always try to get better and build a better mousetrap every day. Is
it important to you that work's fun?
It's important that work's a challenge. There's some times where, it's not fun and some of the problems we have to deal with aren't fun. But if you're working to get better at all times and challenging yourselves, your passion can shine through and it really motivates you to move forward when times are tough.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to those football games as a youth. Did mom and dad show up at those games?
Every game. In college, they would travel 6 or 7 hours on road trips and be in the stands no matter where I was playing.
What was the impact of always looking over and having mom and dad there?
It showed me that through success or failure, you still have support. And, nothing was ever as bad as it seems, because when you got home, you had loving, caring environment that was going to be there for you. And that, it feels good to have somebody cheer you on, cheer your successes on.
And what's the impact of that at Pond Lehocky?
And it goes back into the team environment. Family is a team as well. Culture is important. Good energy is important. Cheering each other on is important. And being there for each other in bad times is important. And it's all that dynamic that stems from sports and family. It's very important in our team.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Birdwell, what are you picking up?
It sounds like unity around the team is core at your.
Come closer to that microphone.
Can you hear me? It sounds
Shawn, it sounds like there's really you come from a lot of love and a lot of support. Is that true?
It is. It is. And sometimes that was tough love. Having honest communication, being told when you're making mistakes, that transparency is important. And I try to bring that to the firm. The firm has that in its DNA with our partners.
The firm has what in its DNA?
Support and clear communications and clear expectations. We're there for each other. We know that there's strengths and weaknesses with each individual on our team, and we have to play to those strengths and help each other in those weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. Shannon, Pat, David, what else are you guys thinking?
John, you're really in tune with your emotions, and there's almost a sensitive side to you. And I'm curious, how does that help your clients?
Our clients are at their worst times in their lives. They need us to support them in making their decisions because they have nothing left. They have no money left. They have no family left. They're on heavy medications. They are at their breaking point. They need a strong advocate in their corner that's not just going to be a lawyer filing claims for them, but it's going to be an emotional support that takes care of that person, not that case.
Wow. What a question, Shannon. Shawn, what is the website address for this organization known as Pond Lehocky?
PondLehocky.com.
How do you spell that?
PondLehocky.com.
We've been speaking with Shawn Lehocky, CEO of Pond Lehocky, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. Don't go away. We will be back in a moment right after this quick break. You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Dr. Jim Jurgielewicz, who is the president of Joe Jorgewitz and Son. What is Joe Jorgewitz and Son? What are you guys doing?
We're a family-owned duck operation, duck farm, back from 1933, one of the largest duck producers in North America.
All righty, and you're the third generation, if I remember correctly?
You got it.
And where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm number 2 of 4 boys in the family.
And what was going on with you 8 to 14? What kind of stuff were you doing 8 to 14?
I spent all my time on the farm. Ever since I was little, before elementary school, 2 hours before going to school, I'd be riding my bike. And whether it was walking barns or unloading trailers, it was me here on the farm.
Why?
It's just what I do. I've never done anything else, and I absolutely love it. I love being around the animals. I love being around the people.
Okay. Drew?
Jim, what's it tell us about you that, you got up 2 hours before elementary school and went to work on a farm?
My parents couldn't pull me away from it. I never did any of the park programs or anything like that during the summers because I'd fight it and I'd be working on the farm. And that's where I'd be no matter what.
What's a benefit to the business today that you were doing that at such a young age?
So we have a lot of team members that are still here from when I was working when I was 8 years old. And no matter what, they have my back because I rose up through the organization and they're here for me because they know that I'm here for them.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Birdwell.
You told us you looked up to your dad growing up. What did you pick up from your dad around the farm?
Well, my dad's a veterinarian. So for me, there was no choice. That's what I was going to do. I was going to be exactly like my dad. So I pushed hard and made it to vet school, got through, came back home. And I just tried to be exactly like him. And so now we have 2 veterinarians that are running the place.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Ethan.
Jim, where did you get this incredible work ethic from?
That's got to come from my dad. No matter what, there was family first. But there was always something with the farm involved. When we were going on vacations, it was going to visit our clients first and then on to something fun after that. So it's just always been there. It's a family business and we just live and breathe it.
Weren't you sharing with us a story earlier in the green room about walking the barns with your dad?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's where I learned it from. That's where I learned. I was doing the veterinary work quote for him when I was in high school, because that's what he taught me. It was walking barns with him.
What did he teach you that you use today?
He taught me you have to make these decisions, and that's how it has to be quickly and in order to be effective. And we might not always have the answers and all the information that we need, but in population medicine, what we do, we have to make these decisions and get to that point and just do it.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Jorgewitz?
Jim, tell us about the relationship that you have with your mom.
A great relationship with my mom. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she had that tenacious side. And so that's where I got it from, and allows me to make those quick decisions, to be firm but fair, which is what I pride myself on.
So how does that tenacious side help you in your business today?
It's by making those decisions and addressing things head on, and it makes our world much more efficient, and we get things done.
Mm-hmm. Pat?
What did you do for fun between 8 and 14 when you weren't working on the farm?
It was basketball and tennis for me. So I was on the basketball team. I was the shooting guard because I wasn't that good at dribbling. Usually it's the point guard that's running the show, but it was my voice running up and down the court leading that group.
Where did you get that leadership role on the basketball court?
It has to come from my dad. My dad was my first coach in basketball from elementary school and then in through middle school. And so he was that voice out there, and I just kind of picked it up when I got into high school and continued that.
That voice kind of on the farm and on the court. What do you bring today to the business that you took away from both those things?
It's that I'm here to lead the group and not be overwhelming, but this is how we're going to get stuff done. It's what I've learned from my dad and my grandfather on how we raise ducks properly, the best way to do it, and we're going to keep rolling and bring my team along with me.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Jim, in the green room, you mentioned you got to spend a good amount of time with your grandparents. I'm curious, what role did they play that impacted where you are today?
Yeah, my grandparents lived on the opposite side of the farm where I grew up on. And so we'd go down there for lunch during the summers. And I really took away a lot from my grandfather because he was the building side. He was like the engineering mind. And that helps me because I look at things fairly methodically and can put things together like that, which really translated and helped me a lot in school to get through vet school.
Mm-hmm. Jim, you mentioned that you really love the farm. What you mentioned that you don't have a ton of hobbies, but you have a couple. And what else do you do for fun?
So I will always and never ever forget how I grew up and that work ethic of working on the farm. So now my wife and I, we have about 60 mama cows, a beef herd, and that's going to allow my 2 kids and soon to be third to grow up and have that same work ethic because believe me, they're going to be cleaning out the barns too.
Uh-huh. So you believe in hard work. Hard work is not a dirty word for you, huh?
You got it.
Mm-hmm. Drew, didn't you have a question, or Ethan, about Dr. Jim Jorgewicz's family? About do you have any children? Are you expecting kids?
Yeah. I have 2 kids. One of them almost 3, another one a year and a half, and then in a couple months we're going to have a third one at the beginning of August. So we will certainly have a circus of a house.
What's the similarity between being a CEO and being a dad?
Great question. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It's being that role model. And that's what I try to be, whether it's that team or as my kids are growing up. And that, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a family business, but we are literally family first. If there's anything going on, a team member, we take care of our families, and then we take care of our job. And that's what I try to do everything with my family.
Wait. You're talking about how you help your employees and their families?
Absolutely. I mean, we're here. That's what I'm always telling my teammates is it's family first. They all know that, and that's one of the great things about working here.
Drew?
I'm just curious what you hear your grandfather whispering in your ear when you're faced with a tough decision.
let's see, do it better. You can always do it better. He was a very tough grandfather. I see it in my dad, and it's expect perfection. Is until we get perfect, we got to keep rolling.
When you're young and they set the bar high, that's pretty tough. But what do you think back on today as you see what you're doing in this growing business? What do you think?
I mean, that's what we have to do. I'm going to do the same thing for my kids, is set that bar high, because we got to keep improving. And that's how this business has grown so fast and so well, is because we keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. But the business was started in 1933. You're telling me the business that started in 1933 is still growing and growing fast?
You got it. We're all over the country now. We're shipping our product to California on a weekly basis, all the way here from Pennsylvania down to Florida. We're all over the place, and we have wonderful opportunities ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Where did that family first thing come from?
It had to have come from my dad, because no matter what, if an employee has an issue, we're there to help them. They know it. They come to me if they need help on anything, financially, emotionally, no matter what.
And what's the benefit
there for them?
What's the benefit operating like that for your clients?
For our clients, they know that we're going to answer the phones at any time of night, because we are a family. And
Jim, what is the website address for your organization?
It's tastyduck.com.
We've been speaking with Dr. Jim Jorgewitz, president of Joe Jorgewitz and Sons, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Julia Anthony, founder and CEO of Solution Medical. Julia, what is Solution Medical?
Yes, we are creating a better way to deliver drugs that require mixing, a process called reconstitution, immediately at point of care.
And where you're from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Yardley, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County. I'm the oldest of 3, 2 younger brothers.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a little bit about what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old.
So 8 to 14, I was very much into sports, definitely a scholar athlete. But something I found challenging trying to do all those things is that both my brother and I were born with a rare life-threatening medical condition where we're not able to make the hormone cortisol. And it's because of this rare condition that we both have that I founded this company and created this device.
Mm-hmm. Drew, give me a hand, please.
Sure. What was the impact of having this disease as a youth on you?
Yeah, so, my brother and I were different, but it isn't something that's very visible. When you don't make a hormone that keeps you alive, people don't necessarily see that, but it affects how we feel. And because of that, it made certain social situations challenging. We weren't able to take the bus as kids. We had to be very, very careful with how we traveled and what we did and who we did it with. It really made us have some level of self-awareness, I think, that most kids our age probably didn't have.
And how does that impact you today? Like, what was the benefit of this today for you?
Yeah, it taught me to self-advocate and be in tune with my body at all times in a way that I think during COVID, a lot of people are now, but maybe weren't previously. I've had to deal with that my entire life.
Mr. Burwell?
Julia, and you just told us that your brother was also born with this life-threatening disease. What was your relationship with him growing up?
Yeah, we definitely have different interests. I'm into sports and he's into fashion, but the two of us were always able to congeal and come together around our condition and help one another out.
And how does that help you lead the company today?
I'm sorry?
How does that help you lead the company today?
Having empathy for other people My brother is really the impetus, I would say, for why I created this company. I have the condition too, but I would say I really started it for him. And seeing and knowing what experience he had while he was in New York City, trying to live like everybody else in a huge city with this rare condition, wanted me to empower other people, including him.
Ethan?
Julia, you shared with us that you spent a lot of time with your dad and your grandfather growing up, tinkering around. Can you share with the listening audience some of the things that you did?
Yeah, so I would love building things with my dad in the basement or working on algebra problems with my grandfather. I learned at a really young age how to solve problems and work with my hands. And one thing I really enjoyed was just taking whatever we had in front of us and figuring out how to make something with it, whether that's be in the garage or the workshop.
Can you remember something that you made as a kid?
Yeah, so with my dad, I remember making a bench with him one time. I still have it. I can't use it anymore. I'm too big now. But I still have the bench. It was a really fun project.
So what did that teach you, making the bench with your dad?
The importance of collaboration, for sure. I don't think I would have been able to do it by myself at age 4 or 5 or whenever we made it. And using my hands, being able to make things out of nothing and solve problems.
It's important to you today? Collaboration, using your hands.
Yeah, has that been helpful
very
in building
much,
this business?
Very much. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Our team is stellar. It's a very complicated, regulated product, so we need to be able to all work together to make this successful and get through commercialization.
Mr. Jorgewitz?
Julia, you mentioned you played a lot of sports growing up. What types of sports did you play?
Soccer, basketball, softball, and I rode crew as well.
And what was the roles you played on those teams?
So for crew, I was in the front of the boat. For soccer, I was midfields. For softball, I was outfields. Basketball, I was point guard.
What would you say the common thread is between all the positions you had on those teams?
Seeing the field, being able to see where everybody is and sort of puppeteer how things worked. In the front of the boat, I could see everybody else rowing. At the top of the paint, I could see where everyone was. And
so what does that have to do with who you are today?
Well, as CEO of the company, I'm managing scientific officers, I'm managing CDMOs, regulatory, all of these different things need to work together. And as CEO, I get to be the puppeteer of all the different aspects to make them work together so we can win.
Pat?
You mentioned that you had a soccer coach that was a role model growing up. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Mr. Stevenson was fantastic. He lived on campus. I went to a boarding school, although it was commuter as well. And, he was able to build a team that was able to win. And he pushed me to be the best that I could be, but recognized my condition. And being able to be pushed, but also have that understanding from him was very helpful.
How does it impact what you're doing today?
So we're currently building our team. And I really take the skills and lessons I learned from him into that process of looking at the holes we need to fill and how we can all synergistically work together to be the best we can be.
Julia, in the green room, you told us that when you were born, your parents were told you might not make it because of your life-threatening condition. And then you were told you can't play sports because of this, but you went on to play a handful of sports and some were pretty physical. I'm curious, what does it mean to you to now be able to empower others because of what you're doing at Solution Medical?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to start this company. I'm here for a reason, and I think that reason is to be able to take my circumstances and be able to help other people with theirs, and give them some empowerment that maybe I didn't have, or rather maybe empower them even more so than the support that I had.
Wow. Ethan?
I'm just wondering, Julia, you were a leader and you got ahead in sports growing up, even despite the challenges that you were dealing with. That must have been very difficult.
Yes, it was very difficult. I don't know what sort of grit or power is within me, but when I'm told no for whatever reason, it just makes me work twice as hard to prove to people that I can do it anyway.
Yeah. What else does that tell the listening audience about you? And how did that prepare you for being the founder and CEO of Solution Medical?
What we're working on is not easy. There's a device component, there's a drug component. We have to put it together, and it's all regulated. In many ways, and I have been told I'm crazy, and this is going to be really hard and maybe not possible. And on the flip side of that coin, I've been told we're going to do it because of the incredible team we have and the passion and grit that I have leading the company. So I take both sides of that coin and just keep driving forward.
Julia, I got a question. What would your advice be to maybe a young lady that had some obstacles in front of her or some hurdles in front of her? What would be your advice? I
would give the advice that my grandfather gave me right before he passed away. So he told me to raise hell but not get hurt. And that is what I do. And I think that's a good way to put.
And Julia, I understand that the device has other uses. And tell us about some of the other uses of the device.
Yeah, so, the impetus for creating the company was the fact that my brother and I have this condition, but it can be used as a platform product for other drugs that require mixing at point of care. So anything from oncology drugs to antipsychotic drugs and even infertility drugs. So we are a platform technology focused on a very critical unmet need in the rare disease space.
So you have a lot of opportunities in front of you, and it sounds like that grit is really going to come in handy here. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Our business model is very strategic to that end. I think we do have a lot of expansion opportunities, and where the grit that I have has us pursuing all of them at once.
What is the website address for Solution Medical?
SolutionMedLLC.com.
Let me have that one more time, please.
SolutionMedLLC.com.
We've been speaking with Julia Anthony, founder and CEO of Solution Medical, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Be back in a moment right after this quick break.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Andrea Custis, President and CEO of the Urban League of Philadelphia. Andrea, what is the Urban League of Philadelphia? What are you guys doing?
The 104-year-old civil rights organization.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Baltimore, Maryland, and I was the baby until I was 14, and then my little sister came along.
Uh-huh. So what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old? What were you up to?
I attended Catholic school for 12 years, so that was the year that I graduated and went to the Institute of Notre Dame. That is the year that my sister was born, and then I always tell people I was the May Queen. I crowned Blessed Mother.
Drew?
Why was that? Why were you like that?
I was just really motivated and very inspired and, just high achiever.
And didn't you tell us your father set the bar pretty high as well?
My father and my mother, but especially my father. I think another speaker talked I am who I am by ambition, by my father, and my love and my care from my mother.
And what's the benefit today by your father setting the bar high back then?
It inspires and encourages me to be a high achiever and to be the best that I have, take my best and make it better.
Ethan?
Andrea, receiving and realizing high expectations as a young child, that's a lot to take on. How did you deal with that?
I loved it because it always made you at the top of the heap. You always gave, you always achieved, and it's kind of nice to be at the top of the heap.
How do you think that prepared you for what you're doing today as a leader?
I think it very much prepared me. When I just look at where we are with social justice in the United States, we have a lot of work to do, and we're driving that work with high performance and high expectations.
Mr. Birdwell?
Andrea, you told us that you were the youngest and then a sibling came on years later. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, that was really interesting when I reflect on it. So I left for college 3 years later. So I never grew up with my sister. I don't know what she did in sports and the prom and homework and boyfriends or any of that. So I really had to get to know her after I was older.
And how does that help you today in your position?
Oh, it just absolutely makes me value every individual. Every individual that you meet has something to offer. Take time to listen to them and understand who they are.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Jorgewitz?
Andrea, you mentioned your father early in the green room about him working for the State Department. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so he was in charge of vocational and industrial schools, very much a civil rights leader, very, very driven. I remember the story when he went to Cornell, there weren't even Black janitors there, so very highly educated and someone who gives back to society. And really the value of people in general is what you leave on this earth. What do you give back?
Mm-hmm.
So how does that relate to, what you do now?
The apple doesn't fall from the tree. All I'll say is, I mirror who my father is.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Andrea, can you think back and tell us a time when you first started advocating for others?
That's a great question, Shannon. I remember doing that at Morgan State University. I joined a sorority, and that's exactly what we did. We advocated for others, and in particular, we were advocating for women.
So you mentioned that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I'm wondering, Pat, didn't you have a question regarding travel or something like that?
Yeah. I understand you did a lot of travel growing up. Where was that? Where did you travel?
So we traveled all over as a child, a lot to the islands, a lot to Europe. And when I left Verizon, the first place I went was South Africa. It is the best trip I've ever taken. I got to go to Robben's Island and see where Mandela was incarcerated, France, Greece. My daughter lived in Australia, Italy, all over the United States. I love to travel.
And how does that travel and those experiences impact what you do with the Urban League?
Excellent question. What it makes you understand is that it's not just the United States of America, it is the world. And we need to appreciate the diversity and the value of what every individual brings to the table. I love meeting different people and also appreciating their cultures.
Andrea, how long have you been with the Urban League? It says here you happen to be the president and CEO. How long have you been the president and CEO?
I am just finishing my 4th year, but when I was at Verizon, I was on the board here for 6 years.
Uh-huh. So what's the vision you have for this organization?
It's a real clear vision. It's all about economic empowerment, pulling people up, giving them an opportunity for jobs, to purchase a home, to stay healthy and wealthy. So it's just really all about social justice and economic empowerment. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you got a big job ahead of you. What kind of resources do you need? How do you spend your time during the day? Do you take off weekends? Sounds like you work 3 hours a day.
Like it's one of those 24/7. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? And tomorrow I'm working from like 9 to about 4 o'clock. Every Saturday is full. You're out in the community. You're with a lot of legislators, a lot of community people. But I will tell you this, Herb, It is hard work, but I look at it like we're doing God's work. And I'm going to steal from John Lewis. We get into good trouble. We really do. We get into good trouble. And I'm very thankful for an amazing board, an amazing staff, and all of you who helped fund us, because we wouldn't be able to do what we were doing.
How do you measure success? What's success look like? How do you measure that?
When I see a 54-year-old woman who's been told she can never purchase a house and she purchases a house, or when I see a person who's been incarcerated, that they have an opportunity to get a certification and have a job and be a tax-paying citizen. When I see a child say, I want to go to college, and we get them into college.
Wow. Who's got the right next question?
Andrew, when you were younger, did you see your parents give back to the community?
Oh, my gosh, that is the question. Drew, that's all I saw. I saw my mother give it in a different way. She stayed at home. She was like the mom that stayed at home that was there. And I saw my father evenings on Saturdays out and doing desegregation in the state of Maryland.
And what did that mean to you to see your dad do that?
I was so proud, Drew. I could almost cry on that one. So don't try to make me cry right now. But to grow up and see parents that are constantly giving back, that's who we are. We're better than who we're showing in America right now. So I'm so proud of my mom and dad for just giving me that value.
And Andrea, what would your dad say if he could see you now?
He would say, I'm so proud of my baby. Look at her. Look at her. I am so proud.
I have a weird question. You have a very funny way about you. Who in your past was funny and showed you that humor?
I can't believe you asked that, Drew. At my father's funeral, there was a whole bunch of Verizon executives that came down to the church. And they said, oh, my God, now I know who you are, because they're telling stories about your father where your father said, I don't want any ugly women in the front row. And the minister looked out and said, no, we're good. We can continue, because they're all back in the back of the church. They said, you're just like your dad.
Uh-huh. How does your sense of humor help you build the Urban League of Philadelphia?
I think it allows me, for me to be accepted, and for the organization, because you're seeing all types of people. And I think humor brings the best out of people. You make people feel comfortable and good.
Sounds to me like your nature really is you love building community. You really appreciate the diversity. You really love building the community. Are you doing this all yourself?
I have 17 people on the staff besides me. And trust me, you don't do this job for money. You do this job because of a mission. And they work really hard. They probably would say if they could, she works us too hard. She needs to stop.
And it's getting into the community. It's trying to figure out the people you can help, trying to help the people, trying to raise money for these programs. Is it that kind of stuff?
That's exactly it, Herb. You hit it on the nail.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, last question.
I'm just wondering, what makes you the most proud today, Andrea?
That we have in the Urban League of Philadelphia, that we are so much more successful from the time I came to where we are now. And that's by metrics in terms of all the different direct services we do. And so I'm really proud of that work, a bigger impact on the community.
Andrea, what is the website address for the Urban League of Philadelphia?
It's Urban League Phila, PHILA.org, O-R-G.
We've been speaking with Andrea Custis, President and CEO of Urban League of Philadelphia, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Ethan, can you give us a rundown on who else we've had on the air today?
Absolutely. Great show today, including Shawn Lehocky, CEO of Lehocky and Legal Ops, Jim Jurgielewicz, President of Joe Jorgewitz and Son Ltd., Julia Anthony, Founder and CEO of Solution Medical, and Andrea Custis, President and CEO, Urban League of Philadelphia.
I would like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Pat Riley USI, for David Birdwell, Topstack, David Jurgielewicz, Evolution Financial Group, and Ethan Milrod, go-to for giving me a hand structuring the questions. Hope you're providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.